The cockpit trembled as tracer fire laced the dark. 1,000 feet below, the channel was black glass, rippling with flame and reflection. The pilot's gloved hands steadied on the stick, his breath frosting the oxygen mask. Instruments flickered. The gunsight glowed dim amber, a ring of light floating in emptiness. He aligned it not by sight of the enemy, but by feel. The aircraft pitched with the wind's unseen hand, and through that trembling light, he saw a phantom, shape, then nothing. Silence. Only the hum of propellers and his heartbeat. They called it the ghost ring. A circle of light that seemed alive, whispering direction to those who learned to listen. It required no battery, no code, no radar, only instinct and alignment between man and machine. Outside, clouds swallowed him again. He couldn't see the horizon, only that faint, trembling halo. Somewhere in the dark, his enemy was doing the same. Two silhouettes chasing geometry across night's skin. The ring pulsed once more, golden and calm even as chaos howled around it. And for a moment, it was the only thing in the world that made sense. The wind wasn't the enemy, nor was the pilot across the sky. The real adversary was uncertainty, the void between action and belief. At night, over Europe, everything became shadows. There was no up or down, only vibration, breath, and the faint hum of the gyroscope spinning beneath the seat. Men vanished not from bullets but from losing the horizon. One wrong tilt, 1 second of disorientation, and the aircraft spiraled like a falling leaf. They called it the Black Dive. The sky turning into ocean. The ground vanishing until it met you like a wall. That's why they built the sight, not to aim, but to anchor. The Mark II reflector sight. A circle of projected light that floated in glass, immune to the aircraft's pitch and roll. It didn't point at the enemy. It revealed where truth would be once chaos settled. Every mission began with that ritual. Switch on the sight. Breathe once and believe in the ring. Outside, searchlights crisscrossed through mist like pale spears. The pilot's hands steadied. He trusted the light's stillness more than his own eyes. Because in war, clarity was the rarest form of armor. It was 1941. The world hung by threads of smoke and engine oil. Above the North Sea, British and German. Pilots fought not just for airspace but for mastery over uncertainty itself. Technology was young. Radar could guide but not aim. Gunsights were iron frames, primitive and misleading under stress. Then came a quiet revolution. A mirror, a bulb, and the physics of parallax. British engineers at Farnborough built the first reflector gunsight, projecting an illuminated reticle onto angled glass. It was neither on the plane nor the ground. It floated at infinity. Wherever the pilot looked, the light followed. It was as if man had finally tamed perspective. But its genius wasn't mechanical. It was psychological. The sight eliminated the need to align metal notches under pressure. It simplified chaos into a single glowing truth. Align the circle and trust the light. Every Spitfire, Hurricane, and Lancaster carried one. Pilots called it the eye that never blinked. And in those desperate months when the sky itself seemed to burn, that faint orange ring gave them back what fear had stolen, the power to see through darkness. And sometimes that was enough to survive. Visibility was a myth. Smoke from burning cities drifted for miles, turning dawn into ash. The pilots flew through it anyway, their canopies streaked with condensation, their eyes raw from hours of glare. Each mission was a wager. Human nerves against the indifferent. Math of wind and velocity. Bullets arrived before sound. The world fractured into fragments. Vibration through the seat. Sweat pooling under gloves. Tracer arcs in red and green. In those seconds between sighting and firing, thought dissolved. Only instinct remained. A quiet calculation of distance, drift, and trust. The reflector sight didn't make them invincible. It made them human again. It gave them a frame to act within, a point of stillness when the body screamed and the mind collapsed. When the battle ended, some returned. Most did not. But among those who survived, none forgot that simple light, or the lesson it carried. Endurance wasn't about firepower. It was about alignment, man, machine, and moment, converging perfectly once in the blur of time. Even as wreckage smoldered below, that ring glowed on, unshaken, still floating, still waiting. One evening, as engineers debriefed a squadron returning from a raid, a pilot placed his helmet on the table and asked a simple question. "Why does it feel alive?" They laughed, but the physicist among them smiled. "Because it's not light you're seeing. It's geometry." The reflector sight didn't project an image onto glass. It bent it through infinity. The bulb's filament shone, through lenses so precisely curved that the reticle appeared at a point no one could reach. No matter how the pilot moved his head, the light stayed still, like a star fixed against the motion of the world. That illusion of stability became faith. It taught men to trust what didn't move when everything else did. When the Americans adapted it for the P-51 Mustang, they called it the unshakable eye. It wasn't just invention. It was revelation. Proof that the simplest tools could embody the most complex truths. That night, a mechanic leaned over the cockpit and watched the light tremble softly in the dark hangar. It seemed to breathe, as if remembering every life it had steadied. Somewhere, a new dawn hummed behind the clouds. Dawn patrols began in silence. The pilots climbed until the horizon curved, engines droning like distant thunder. Then the enemy came, fast, low, purposeful. Through the reflector sight, everything slowed. The reticle framed motion into meaning. The ring adjusted automatically for deflection, allowing shots to meet where the enemy would be, not where he was. The pilot leaned into the turn, feeling the aircraft's weight in his chest. He didn't look at the target, he felt it. The circle floated before him, serene amid the violence, a compass of light cutting through blur and speed. Tracer fire stitched the sky. The enemy wavered, caught in the glow. Then, stillness. One burst. Smoke trailing downward, dissolving into horizon. No celebration, only breath. He throttled back, watching the faint halo remain steady even as the earth spun beneath. That small circle had done what 1,000 commands could not. It replaced panic with poise. It turned the act of killing into an act of clarity. Below, the channel reflected the morning sun, the same cold glass he'd flown over in darkness. But now the light came from within. The design spread faster than rumor. America adopted it. Germany reverse-engineered it. Japan miniaturized it. Every nation at war discovered the same truth. Precision was not found in complexity, but in simplicity that endures chaos. When jet age dawned, the reflector sight evolved into the gyro gunsight, then into the heads-up display. But the principle never changed. Information projected at infinity, allowing the human eye to merge with machine instinct. Fighter pilots in Korea, Vietnam, even the first astronauts in orbit carried its descendants. The glowing ring became a lineage, from glass to hologram, from analog to augmented. But ask any veteran, and they'll tell you, nothing ever felt quite the same. The old sight didn't just show aim, it showed truth without interference. In museums now, the Mark II sits behind glass, quiet, almost invisible until light hits it just right. Then the ring appears, delicate and alive, like a memory resurfacing. Visitors lean close, puzzled. How could something so simple outlast so much progress? The answer hums in the silence between their breaths. Because clarity never goes out of style. The sight's genius wasn't merely optical. It was philosophical. It harnessed the principle of parallax freedom, that the truth of a thing is not where you stand, but what remains unshifted when you move. In a world built on noise, the reflector sight rewarded stillness. It reminded pilots, and later, engineers, that stability isn't the absence of motion, but alignment through it. Mathematically, it was perfect, a virtual image projected to infinity, immune to error. Psychologically, it was divine symmetry, an external calm to match internal chaos. Even today, our most advanced targeting systems, from drones to fighter HUDs, still rely on that geometry. The light remains infinite, but the lesson reaches beyond flight. In every field where precision meets emotion, Surgery, art, leadership, the principle holds. Trust the reference that doesn't move. The pilots may have forgotten the math, but they remembered the feeling, that strange peace found through alignment. And perhaps that's why, decades later, a new generation stares at glowing screens, still chasing the same ring of light, not just to hit a target, to find stillness in motion. Modern pilots sit behind glass and code. Their cockpits hum with data, their helmets filled with numbers. Yet, in training, instructors still teach the same gesture. Breathe, center, align. Technology has advanced, but human nerves haven't. Our eyes still seek the same truth. What can we trust when everything moves? The reflector sight's legacy lives not in museums, but in minds. It taught us that accuracy begins with trust, not in systems, but in awareness. A pilot from 1941 and a drone operator in 2025 share the same silent ritual before action. Find the fixed point, breathe once, and commit. History loops like a contrail across time. The instruments change. The geometry doesn't. In the archives, engineers still marvel at the elegance of that glass disc, built with slide rules and conviction. Its light never flickered because it didn't need to. It existed beyond failure. Perhaps that's why, in a world overflowing with noise, its story feels more vital than ever. Clarity was never technological. It was human. Years later, an old Spitfire rests in a hangar, its metal faded to dull silver. Visitors walk past without noticing the small circular lens above the instrument panel. But when sunlight touches it just right, the ring returns. Faint, perfect, infinite. A child sees it first. "What's that?" he asks. The guide smiles. "That," he says, "helped them find their way home." The light wavers gently, like memory made visible. It is no longer a tool of war, but a symbol of what endures when everything else fades. Faith in simplicity, in geometry, in calm within chaos. Through that thin glass, generations still meet. The living and the ghosts of those who flew by trust alone. Outside, the wind hums softly through open doors. The sky beyond is clear and endless. The ring holds steady, as it always did, waiting for the next soul to understand what it truly meant. They never lit a fire, but somehow they became it.